When was the last time you took a leap of faith, trusting that everything is going to work out? Do you crave growth, or are you merely content with the status quo? If you want more out of your life, out of your career, and out of your relationships, you are in the right place. Take the leap and discover how to create a life by design rather than living it by default. Real success starts with you. Now here's your host, Colleen Biggs.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Take the Leap. As always, I am your host, Colleen Biggs, and it's another great day over here with the Leap community. And, it is getting hot. I'm not going to lie. I think in the last 3 podcasts, I've said, okay, now, because I live in Arizona, and everyone's like, yeah, it's just the heat is so bad. And I said, it's like anywhere you would live in the winter where you have snowstorms. We don't have snowstorms here other than up north. And in Arizona, at least you can drive an hour and a half and be in the mountains and it's 20 degrees cooler. So most people get out of Dodge and go north during the summers. We're actually building a cabin up there right now. So I don't know how y'all are keeping cool. Maybe you have pools or whatever that might be. I just go from an air-conditioned house to an air-conditioned car to an air-conditioned building. And then I do that in reverse coming home. So I always said air-conditioned seats were a necessity living in Arizona for a car. So that is my one luxury and one thing that I enjoy. So I'd love to hear the one thing that you enjoy that keeps you cool over the summer, because these months are pretty warm. And I hear even in Portland, Oregon, and so many other states, they're having some heat waves coming through, and most of them have a lot of humidity. And that's really tough because it's a dry heat here. Just open up your oven whenever you're cooking. That's what it feels like when you walk outside in Arizona. I love to let you know what that feels like. Well, I'm excited for today's episode. As always, we've got some amazing guests. And for some reason lately, I've had a lot of men on this podcast. They are just coming in my path and coming forward. And I'm really enjoying getting to know them because they are out there just passionately supporting individuals. And it's been a really fun ride. And Dan Woerheide is here with us today. I wanted to make sure I got his name right. And we're going to be talking about eliminating attachments to a specific outcome. So a lot of times I think we do something and we just expect the outcome to be exactly what we want it to be. And then when that doesn't happen, we feel like we failed or we're upset about it, or maybe we're mad, and then we don't ever pursue that again. And Dan really wants to talk to us a lot about how not holding those outcomes is really going to make life a lot easier for you. It's going to help you with those obstacles, those limiting beliefs, or those perceived challenges that you think you're kind of making it up that you have, that maybe you don't really have. And I'm excited to talk with him about that today. But before I do, I want to thank our sponsor at Peaceful Living. Why do we allow stress to compound in our lives, affecting our sleep and our daily rituals? The truth is, we all live with stress, but imagine what it would feel like to not suffer from stress. Are you ready to feel better, sleep better, and change your overall relationship with tension? Peaceful Living can help you bring more peaceful moments into your day. Peaceful Living also offers simple tools, live stream and on-demand classes, and customized self-care success plans. Imagine if you had simple ways to slow down and restore your energy without taking big chunks of time away from your schedule. It's possible. So please visit their link below. And if you use the code LEAP, you receive your first month for free. I did one of her classes this morning because I've been doing a water fast, and it's been really great because I do yin yoga when I do water fasts to keep energy moving throughout my body. And I love that she has an on-demand library online that you can just go to, because she lives in Parker, Colorado, and I live in Mesa, Arizona. So as you can see, That's a big problem. I can't really travel to her studio in Parker, but she has everything she does online. It's absolutely amazing. So go check that out. Okay, let's meet Dan briefly here. So he's a father and a veteran. We talked all about his kids the last time that him and I had a conversation. He is super passionate about connecting with others at a level that goes beyond surface level conversations. You all know what I'm talking about there. He loves to inspire others and build and strengthen communities. He's been certified through 48 Days Life Coaching and Transformation Academy Life Coaching, and he continues to pursue many types of personal development and coaching education. And some of his experience include National Certified Victim Advocate, a 2-time certified through Dave Ramsey, and Master Resiliency Trainer. Dan, welcome to today's show.
Hi, Colleen. Thanks so much.
Do you like to hear someone talk about you?
Do I like to? No.
Really? Let it land, my friend. Let it land.
Yes. It's exciting to hear those things and to sit back and think about, wow, yeah, I guess I've done those things. And
That's
many
what's really
more.
cool.
It just,
Yeah.
when you hear it, it's different. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know you've taken some leaps in your life. You left the military, you've done sales roles, you started a coaching business. I love that you dated a woman in England. We've got to dive into that. Like everyone wants to know all the juicy stuff on this podcast. So why don't we start with dating the woman in England and let's kick it off. Was that just something you tried? I don't think we talked about that last time.
No, I don't think we spent much time talking about it. And I'll cut to the chase at the end of the story first and just say that she and I remain friends. And it was a wonderful experience overall. But how did I get there is probably what people are wondering. I live in Central East Florida near Cocoa Beach, Cape Canaveral.
Mm-hmm.
The rockets launch a couple times a week now.
Oh, really?
Well,
I
yes,
didn't know that.
There's plenty of jokes and memes on the internet about SpaceX and the number of rockets that they launch in any given week. Sometimes there's 3 or 4, depending on what other companies are launching or if NASA has a launch. It's been interesting.
Yeah. And we still can't get great cell service all the time. So I don't even know what that's about.
Although it's getting better. Elon is putting up so many of those Starlink satellites.
I know.
It's kind of crazy to think about, and now people are posting about watching the Starlink satellite trains in the sky.
I love the Starlink. I'll tell you, when we used to RV travel, that was what we used to get internet. And it's amazing. You can get internet everywhere. And when you're working, you need, even though you're in your RV, you still need to work. We were still working. It was our best work that we ever did, being out in the wilderness, but Starlink's great for that. Okay. So you live in Florida. She lives in England. How do you even meet someone?
Well, yeah. So we met in a professional coaching, I don't remember what you call it, but we were part of the same program that was being facilitated by another coach. And we met, connected, and continued to meet on a professional level. And then we supported each other through some work that we were doing. And that was, I don't know, almost 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And we just maintained, a professional connection and friendship that was building along the way. And at the time I was in a relationship, so it wasn't, a thought that this would be something I'd pursue at any point in time. in a more personal perspective anyway. And when that relationship ended, I'll cut through the main parts there. That relationship ended, and it was that was a tough time for me. I remember that. And I didn't have a lot of people whom I could reach out to locally. So I reached out to a couple people who I was connected with in various capacities and had gone beyond just professional. So as my friends, I was like, hey, I really need some support here. And she and I reconnected via that space and spent some time chatting and working through those things. And at some point, a few months later, I was sitting at a bar. It's terrible. I was sitting at a bar with another friend of mine, and and we were talking about dating and the types of people that we would want, characteristic wise, defining what that ideal partner would look like in the dating world. In dating and after you're 40 can be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I've been married most of my adult life, and yeah, so you're just talking through some of those pieces, and I was halfway through identifying these kind of characteristics and the type of person that I would look for, and was like, it's funny. Right now, I'm thinking about this particular woman. And I won't name her name here, but I was thinking about this particular person, and my friend looked at me and said, "Well, why aren't you dating her?" And I said, "Well, that's a great question." I mean, I came up with all the excuses. She lives overseas, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, it, we started off professionally, and we're friends, but no, that's just silly. And she said, "Well, why is it silly?" And I was like, "Well, because all these things." She said, "So?" And then it came to me that the words "why not?" What
Yeah.
what am I going to lose? What do I potentially have to gain was probably the better question to ask. And so I went home and sent a message to her and said, "Hey, can we chat tomorrow? We connect on Zoom." And she said, "Yeah, absolutely." So in the middle of her day there in England, they're 5 hours ahead of us most of the year, uh, except for our time change. Their time change is slightly off from ours. So anyway, 5 hours ahead, we connected, and I was like, "So, we've had a great connection. Would you be interested in exploring that further?" And she said, "Absolutely."
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how that started. And then I spent a few months there last year continuing to pursue that. And yeah, it was really great.
That's huge. And I think it really just sets the stage for, why this podcast exists. It's about taking the leap, really. What can you do to design your life? And I really believe that sometimes we have to take major leaps in our life without knowing the outcome. And when we're talking about eliminating the attachment to a specific outcome, explain a little bit what you mean by that, Dan. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So to be very specific, I'm talking about eliminating outcomes or expected outcomes based on whatever we're doing. So I'll use my two biggest examples. I had a podcast previously that I ran for about a year and a half. I think it was 75, 80 episodes in, and I kind of took a break from podcasting. I took a break from coaching. This ties back actually to that original relationship that I was in, and
Okay.
some of the things that I was experiencing there caused me to shut out some of the things I most enjoyed. But that podcast and my coaching business were all built around the same ideas that most people are teaching. You start a podcast to gain clients or to solicit your business, whatever it may be, and these are the steps you should take, and you should consider sponsorship, all the things. I did all of
Mm-hmm.
those, and it just wasn't enjoyable. And my coaching business was built similarly, right? Where I was, sort of I've never really spent advertising money, so marketing in more organic methods, but I was doing all of the things. I was connecting with the people. I had the email list building and all the things they tell you should be doing to build a business. And to be honest, that wasn't enjoyable either. So after I adopted this idea of why not, uh, and kicked this year off. I sort of reset after my trip to England, and this year I've started. We'll call it rebuilding. I started my podcast back up under a new brand, and I started my coaching business back, but in a much different way. And I chose very intentionally to remove the attachments. We'll start with the podcast. Remove attachments from any expected outcome. I'm creating
Mm-hmm.
content and having conversations with people that I want to have, that I enjoy for one reason or another. I had a conversation with Bill Mitchell, who is a huge advocate or proponent of educating people around dating violence. And because you mentioned it in my bio. I'm a former victim advocate, nationally certified, spent 13 years in the military as a sexual assault victim advocate. And I'm close to that topic. I wanted to have that conversation.
Of course.
And I publish those in hopes that maybe someone else benefits, maybe someone else shares it. I don't look at the numbers of downloads. I don't look for sponsor opportunities. I don't want a sponsorship opportunity for my podcast. If any of those things come, aside from sponsorship, if any of those things come, those are golden nuggets, in my opinion.
Yeah. I
Clients,
totally agree with you.
yeah, clients or
Yeah.
whatever, those are just, that's all just extremely beneficial bonuses.
Yeah.
And the ability to connect with someone is really what I want to do. That applies to my coaching business in the same fashion. I don't market my coaching business. There, you may listen to my podcast and hear some things about what I'm working on, but it's not for the purpose of trying to convince you to be my client.
Mm-hmm.
My coaching is by invitation only for the most part. I have a website. You can apply to work with me, and we're going to have a one-on-one conversation before either of us decide that that's what we're going to do. So I eliminated all of the outcomes on those invitations too. Those invitations are, we can sit and think about who I'm going to invite to my coaching. Will this person potentially be interested? What will they think? All of those thoughts that might go through our heads. And I chose very intentionally to send those invitations to everyone without regard for the first thing that comes to mind: race, religion, ethnicity, whatever. But no, I send those invitations to people when I feel like there's a connection, but I'm not attached to whether or not they say no or yes. My
That's
attachment
great.
is to the process of creating.
Seen a lot. I love that because I've seen a lot of individuals be so attached to the outcome of someone saying yes when they're having a conversation. I said, that's a very transactional conversation.
Yeah.
And those just don't exist anymore. Maybe they do. I think they do. There's a lot of really great salespeople out there, and I think they do exist. But I've just always believed in visibility, like telling everybody about you, just kind of be invisible so people know you exist, and also building long-lasting relationships. Because that's how every client comes to me. That's how every woman shows up at my conferences. That's how every woman joins my community, is because some other person told them, you've got to meet Colleen Biggs. You've got to become part of her community. So it really is about who knows me, not who I know.
Absolutely.
And those are built on strong relationships.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
You mentioned sales. I love sales. I don't want anybody to take that away from me. I love sales. But when it comes to my coaching business, I'm not selling anything. Number one, I'm filtering. I'm filtering through initial conversations. I offer everyone equally a full-blown coaching session. And if it's a great fit for us to continue, I might invite you to another one.
Yeah.
At some point, we may talk about what it looks like to work with me, but that's not my goal in the beginning. In fact, I set the stage right up front. Hey, this is just a reminder for you and I both, because I need it just as much as they do, that there are no obligations, no strings attached to this conversation. I'm here to serve you. This is my creative contribution to the world. And when I show up in sales capacity, I sell software in the automotive industry. And when I show up for those sales, people have asked me, Dan, how do you do so well? It's like, well, I don't sell anything. I show up and look for opportunities to help people.
That's right. I think you just really hit the nail on the head right there. It's about showing up in every capacity that you show up. It's, you and I had so much in common. It's why I wanted to put you on the show, because I think we speak the same language when it comes to, serving other people. And I created those Empower and Elevate conferences for women that I do twice a year here locally in Arizona for them. It's not for my benefit. I don't sell anything. All I say is, do you love it? Do you want to have another one next year? Or do you want to come to the next one? And they can sign up for it. And that's it. So it's for them. It's for them to gather with other small business owners local and meet each other. I work hard to get the great resources in the room. And that's why I do it for them. I really feel like when we do serve other people in that capacity, my entire life, Dan, when I've served other people first in that capacity, I've always done well. And I've
So,
never really like, I could teach sales 101. I've been in like really hardcore sales roles.
mhm.
And I just love the connections and conversations with people and getting to know them. And that's where you really kind of get underneath the top layer to figure out who they are.
Absolutely.
And those, like you said, just kind of get past the scratching the surface. So why did you go for what was your I guess appeal and lean into um being a life coach?
Uh,
Where did that come from?
well, so I'll be clear. I should rewrite my resume, but the 48 days certification is much more than life coaching. It's career transition
Mm,
coaching. And there is some workshops that I'm certified in through that material or that program, that certification. And the life coaching, I think, is actually just part of understanding people and connecting with people better. So I mentioned in my bio that I love, you know, building and strengthening communities. So wherever I've lived, I do my best to plug in and look for great connections with people and understanding, what they want in life. And maybe there's opportunity to help, maybe not, but
mhm,
that's kind of where I love to spend time. And so life coaching just seemed like a natural progression for continued learning. And it's much easier to help people understand what I do when I say life coaching versus transformation coaching.
mhm.
Although I think that terminology is starting to um, be a bit more present. But I think generally speaking, people don't really have a good grasp of what coaching is, which is also why I
Yeah.
love to invite people to experience coaching before trying to explain it and say, well, these are the things I could potentially help you with. It's no,
Mhm.
let me work with you. Let's see what you have going on in your world, business, life,
Yeah.
career, and if I can help, then I'll do my best. And it's a much different connection, number one, and
Yeah.
the gratitude for the things that people have been able to change is rewarding.
Totally.
So
How
a long answer to a short question.
No, 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 no. It's good. It's good. How do you working with your clients take them through a process? Like, what is the process you take them through to help them eliminate that outcome attachment? Because I, I think I have had a lot of attachments to things, when I start something or do something and I know my ability. So I always have these high goals and I'm a high achiever. And so, I have this, I do have this attachment and feel slightly disappointed when I'm not, and I'll blame myself, not usually anyone else. I'll blame myself when I'm not able to get to that level as fast. I'll use our franchising company as an example. We franchised my husband's business, and I really thought that I would be able to get it to take off much faster than it is. And I had it in my head, like, I've done this for years. It's going to be a piece of cake, not so much piece of cake, and I had an outcome attachment to it.
Mhm.
So, how do you work with individuals to like, what is that process?
Well, so there is no specific process. It's trial and error, practice and repeat.
Yeah.
It's a process of the process is discovery, listening,
Mhm.
asking good questions, and trying to understand where the attachment comes from. Right, that attachment may come from a desire to be seen as successful. As an example, this is just taking away from what you just said. I don't know the
You
ins
say
and
whatever you
outs.
want, my friend. Safe
Okay.
space.
Yeah, well, I don't want anyone out there to make assumptions based on what I'm saying. I'm just connecting dots and what I'm hearing to what could potentially be there, right? Maybe there's an attachment to not the outcome itself, but others perceiving you as successful, and if that's the case, where does that come from? And it's just digging deeper, right?
Yeah.
Getting below the surface and finding out, well, where does that come from? What kind of relationship did you have with your parents? You never know where these things go, but
Mm-hmm.
those are the things that can come up, right? Mom and dad were very strict and, consistently insisted that we achieve more. Even when we were successful, there wasn't a lot of time spent in that experience. It was, okay, what are you going to do next?
Mm-hmm.
And when we uncover those things, that's when change really comes about. But
Yeah.
that's just one potential example based off of what you just created there, scenario
No,
wise.
I love that you said that. No, it's good. We can coach Colleen on this call. It's all good. And I'll tell you, I definitely don't have an attachment to what others think. I really never have. And I don't know where that comes from either.
Mhm.
But I know that when someone else has a belief about me, it's their belief. It has, nothing to do with me.
So good.
So I'm not really tied to what other people think. It always comes back to what I think about myself. It's that kind of self regulation and measuring what I'm capable of doing. And it's so interesting because when I go back, it's like, Colleen, you can build anything because anything you've decided to build, you'd build. So you got to go easy on yourself and not put such high expectations out there and just enjoy the ride. And I keep telling myself that, Dan, over and over and over again, just enjoy the ride. And I have been, I will tell you, in the last many years, personal development and working with coaches, I've worked with many different coaches. So I want to say that based on what you had said, it really does make a difference when you work through your personal development and you work with coaches in every area of your life, whether it's spiritual or mental or health. I've discovered even new areas of health, and I kind of thought I knew all about it, until I started working with a different health coach. And so I think it's very important for us to reach out to others and have guides and mentors in our lives because they will help you see all of the blind spots that you can't see in your life,
Yes.
you know? Yeah.
Well, and that's the big thing, right? I don't make assumptions. I help people uncover their blind spots for themselves, right?
Yeah.
Listening and asking good questions is, it sounds really simple. It's not in practice.
Hmm.
It's a lot of people that struggle with that, and that's okay. It takes practice, and sometimes we want to jump in and save somebody or point out the obvious, and well, it's easy. It's much more effective when you can help them see what you might see as obvious.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
We can
and
always see a different perspective outside looking in, but I love that you said that because I meet so many coaches and they think I think the reason why they struggle and they're tied to outcomes is because they think their responsibility is to change the person and have all the answers. And I'm like, good luck with that.
what can we talk about that for a second? Because I
Yeah.
agree with you. I think I'll just say there's a lot of coaches out there who believe that it's their responsibility, like you said, to help people achieve the outcomes that they hired them for.
Hmm.
And that's why I really didn't like the process of people interviewing me from a why should I hire you perspective.
Hmm.
If they ask me that question, it's wait a minute, hold on. I'm not sure if I'm ready to work with you. So let's sit down together. We'll work through some things, and if we both agree at the end of that, then we can discuss what it's looks like to work with me. But I no longer allow people to interview me in that perspective as to
Yeah.
why should I work with you or why should I hire you as a coach? Is well, why should I work with you?
Yeah. I agree.
I want to know, are you someone who has the ability to take action on the insights that you've gained in this conversation?
Hmm.
Are you willing to do the hard work? And I don't know that until you demonstrate it.
Yeah. That's beautifully said, Dan.
If you have a specific outcome in mind and you call me and say, well, tell me how you can help me achieve this. Well, that's not how this is going to be most beneficial
Mm-mm.
for either of us.
No. And I found those relationships that I've had with individuals over the year never work out. And I usually get to a point that I need to release them as clients and say, I think this is best for both of us.
And that can be extremely frustrating as a coach, right? These are the things you're supposed to help people achieve, but it's really a matter of what are they willing to achieve for themselves? And if they can't do that, you're never going to be able to help them.
Never, never. And it's
That's
really not
terrible.
our responsibility. Yeah. I'm so glad you said that. So glad you said that. So, Dan, I know everyone's like, okay, so we really like this Dan guy. Love his energy, love his presence. He's so calm. You know, they're so used to my like high energy. And then they get Dan on here and they're like, wow, this guy brings some awesome, calm energy to the podcast. So, where do you want them to reach out to you? Where should they connect with you? We've got a few links for your website and Facebook and Instagram. What do you prefer?
Well, those are all good, but I think the best way for people who are curious to learn more about me, you can always reach out to me by email. First of
Okay.
all, dan@danw.us, but my website, danw.us. If you go there, there's an application to work with me button. You know, you can click the apply to work with me, fill out the application, and mention that Colleen sent you, and I will do the same as I do for direct invitations. I'll invite you to a coaching session. No strings, no obligations, no expectations that you'll ever become a client, and we'll get to know each other that way in a bit more in depth fashion. Either of those is acceptable, and again, social media is completely fine. I love connecting with people anyway.
I love that you said that there's no expectations that you're going to become a client. And I would say anyone that gets a free coaching sessions from me, you know, if I'm on a summit or if I get, you know, or talking to someone, I'm like, hey, why don't we just do a session? There are never expectations. I'm there to serve you for that time. That's it.
Yes.
And I guess the reason why I feel that way, you've kind of uncovered it on today's show, is because we need to know that we're a good fit. I need to know that you're going to be a good client for me because I have gotten very clear on my mission and who I am and who I serve. And I need to know that that's going to be a good fit. And I love that you said that because I think a lot of coaches do feel like they're just kind of there and they'll take whatever client comes to them. And I don't do that. I did that in the beginning. But I haven't done that in years and it feels better. Like I'm so much more relaxed.
But you don't have to, well, the word work comes to mind, right? It's not work when it's
Yeah.
the atmosphere that you want to create and the life,
Correct.
business, work, etc. that you're creating.
Yeah.
It should be enjoyable. And
I agree.
that's why I shifted is doing it the other way absolutely wasn't enjoyable for me. It felt like work. And then how do you increase your pricing? You know, it's based on the value that you're creating, and
Of course.
there's other pieces that go with that. But if you're working yourself to death to try and convince everyone to work with you, then you can't spend time really getting to know the rest of that.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, Dan, you've had some great advice today. We've got Dan's website, danw.us below. We also have his email address. You can, I would say, start following him on Facebook and Instagram. I always love to start following people because I can learn a lot more about their life and connect with them there and stay connected. Dan's like, trust me, Dan, if you haven't started following Colleen Biggs yet, you might want to because you'll see everything about my life. You'll see when we buy a new business.
I teach surf lessons part-time. You'll see
Nice.
that. You'll see the podcast. You'll
I
see
love that. Yeah.
sunrises from the
Yeah.
beach, and
You'll see a lot of my grandkids. I got 13 of them. So they're all going to be popping up somewhere along the way because I spend a lot of time with them. But that's really what life is about, right?
Yeah.
And I love it that we got to talk about eliminating that attachment to specific outcomes because when you especially have a big family like mine, you have to eliminate your attachment to outcomes because trust me, those kids, they're not going to give you an outcome that you think you're going to get at all.
Right.
And I
Never
think
does.
that's why I love a child's heart and a child's spirit because of that. And maybe we should tap in more of that as individuals. And, you know, you're the only you that's ever been, you're the only you that's ever going to be. So what does that mean? What do you want your life to look like? Do you want to keep struggling, trying to just gather all these clients, or are you ready to stop holding on to that specific attachment? I mean, that's what Dan and I wanted to talk about today. And I love it that he teaches, you know, part-time lessons and surfing and he does so much more than what you guys got from today. So go check him out online at danw.us. And Dan, thanks so much for being with me today. It was fun.
Thank you, Colleen. I really appreciate it. It's been great.
All right, everyone. Until next time, don't forget, be you and be strong. Bye-bye for now.
We hope you enjoyed our show today, as our guests shared their secrets on designing their life by taking the necessary leaps to expand their influence and attract the right people and clients into their lives. To start these easy steps for yourself, be sure to visit www.colleenbiggs.net/freebies to download the 7 ways to increase your exposure today.